welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. Today we're going to be talking about soil. Let me show you my garden here. Okay, this is my garden. Today I wanted to show you a little bit about soil. Luckily, I have soil layers that I can show you in my garden. The people who bought this or who built this house did something very interesting. If you look down in this hole, it's kind of hard to tell, but at the very bottom, it's a ton of rocks. I mean, look, there's a huge rock right there. There's clay. And then if you look on the side here, I don't know if you can tell, or if you can see very well, but it's almost pure sand. So they put a layer of sand for the topsoil on top of the clay so they could plant the lawn. And then I came in, killed the lawn, and put compost on top of that. Okay, so I've removed some soil from that hole, and there's a few different ways to tell if you have clay, loam, or sand, and I wanted to just show you one first. I'm going to take a little bit of water, kind of moisten these a little bit. I love my cup. Okay, so the first is sand. You take sand in your hand, it's a little moistened, and you start to try to run it through your fingers. It completely falls apart. The particles are bigger and they don't stick together. If you take clay, now this might not work as well as some because it is mixed with a little bit of the compost. But if you take clay and squeeze it through your fingers, if there's not too much water, it starts making ribbons. There is a lot of rocks in here too, but if you can kind of tell, it sticks together a lot more than the sand did. And if you have true clay, it'll just make ribbons. Okay, then for the loam, which is being represented by this compost, it's the perfect mixture between falling apart and sticking together. So what I'm going to do is we're going to show you another way to be able to tell whether you have clay or loam or a mixture, and whatever the mixture is. So I'm going to take all of these, mix them together, and I am going to put them in a jar for you. Okay, so another way we can tell if you have clay, loam, or sand, or a combination of all of the above, which is usually what everybody has, is to take, I mixed all those different soils together. We put them in this jar. We're going to fill it with water and mix it all together. The clay has really tiny flat particles, so it generally floats to the surface and it's usually on the top. The sand is the heaviest, it's got the largest particles, heaviest particles, so it's going to sink to the bottom. The loam will be somewhere in the middle. So let's take it inside and see what happens. Welcome back. I wanted to show you some preliminary results. I don't know if you can see on this, but we've started getting some separation. I'll give you a little bit better close-up, but we've got the sand layer in the bottom, we've got the loam layer in the middle, and we've got the clay layer on top. Here's a little bit closer view of this. You can see that little white layer on top. That is actually the clay, and clay is also suspended throughout the water. We've got the loam layer. Just see if I can focus in on the sand layer below. You can kind of see that sand layer. It's mixed in a little bit with the loam, but there are the layers. So I have quite a bit of sand, and it's because I put that layer of sand in there. A good deal of loam, and a little bit of clay on the top. So why is it important to know whether you have sand, loam, or clay soil? Well, first of all, It's going to affect how your plants grow. Sandy soil does not hold moisture. It does not hold the nutrients because the particles are large, and they let things flow through. Loam will, it's chemistry, but it clings to the fertility of the soil. It holds moisture, and it's basically the best soil that you can have for your garden. That's what you're striving for. Clay, the particles, like I told you, are very small. They're the smallest particles. They're small, they're flat, they pack close together. They don't hold water. They hold water really well. They hold nutrients really well, but sometimes they're so packed together that it won't let the water through. It won't release the water. The other thing you have to worry about is oxygen in the soil. Sand has a lot of oxygen, loam has the perfect amount of oxygen, and clay, if it's packed too closely together, there is no oxygen for the roots of the soil. So how do we solve problems if we have too much clay or too much sand? Well, that's going to be the subject of next week's videos. We're going to talk about soil fertility. We're going to talk about compost. Mixing organic matter into the soil solves both the problems with clay and the problem with sand. So thank you for joining me today. Let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you. Try this little experiment for yourself. See what you have in your yard. See if you have sand, soil, clay, or a perfect mix of both. And I would love to hear back and hear the results of your experiment. And until next week, go have some adventures.